Keith, we're just a short while away now from the start of the 2022 season, and it's your eighth in charge of Bohemians Football Club. I know how important it is to obviously remain in the present and look to the future, but how do you reflect on your time at Bohemians Football Club so far?
8 years, Colm. God, it's a long time. It doesn't feel like 8 years. I've enjoyed every moment of it. It's been an absolute privilege to work for this club. Hasn't always been plain sailing, that's for sure. We've had many highs and lows, which is life, it's sport, and I think the club is a vastly improved club from what it was when I first came into the building. Obviously, at that time, the club had just come through a very difficult period where it was kept alive by the supporters, by the members, by the board, and it's in stark contrast to where we are today. We've made progress on and off the pitch. We've done it in a sustainable manner. We've built quite a number of teams over the years, and we've recruited players, lost players, all that type of stuff. But ultimately, we've done it in a sustainable way that we find ourselves at a point now where the club, I think, is stronger in a better foundations than it has been for many years.
And I think the famous phrase is shoestring budget when it comes to what you've been able to do over the last number of years with the resources available. But what do you put that down to? What do you credit being able to do so much with, I suppose, limited resources?
Well, I suppose initially in 2015, when you come in, I think it was widely recognised that we had the lowest budget in the league, in a 12-team league at that time, and that included clubs like Drogheda and so on. So we've been able to build sustainably. Bohs is a big club. It's got a big fan base. It's I suppose a lot of the credit has to go to the board. The support that they've year on year given me as manager from a financial point of view, and you've got to understand where we come from. You've got to do it, like I said, in a sustainable way. I think the club at that time, and prior to me coming in 2015, reevaluated where it was at as a football club, what was important to it as a football club. I think the board began a process to reshape the club, to rethink the club, to reform the club, and to reevaluate, like I said, and put community at one of its central core pillars and values of the club. And we've been able to come in and I suppose the supporters recognise the honesty of the team, the players, and when they put on the Bohs jersey, that they represent it in a good light, that they fill the jersey, and they play with pride and passion. And we were able to do that for a number of years, which was great, keeping us in the division, more than punching above our weight, over the course of a number of seasons, to a point where I suppose budget has increased over the last number of years as a result of the club, being built off the pitch in terms of a sustainable, being run. The operations side of the club has been transformed. We've been able to appoint a COO, a full-time COO. We've got full-time administrators in the office, which have helped build the club on many different fronts. And I suppose from a football point of view, on the pitch, which is what all our supporters want to talk about and want to hear, is that we're making progress, and been able to qualify for Europe 2 years on the bounce. The disappointment of last year, losing out on the final day of the season by 2 points to get into Europe again this year. There's no doubt that was a blow to the team, to the club, to ourselves as a management team, as a backroom team. We were disappointed. We felt we were a little bit better than possibly our league standing suggested, but unfortunately we were, as a young squad, we were inconsistent throughout the campaign last year. There's no doubt we had some high moments last year. I suppose European run in the Aviva was fantastic. The second phase of games, we went on an outstanding run, but ultimately, got obviously the FAI Cup. We had a great run in the Cup up until the final. We played really well in the Cup competitions. up until the final, when I didn't think we performed at our capacity, which was obviously very disappointing for everybody, not to come away with some silverware after a long period of being building as a club. But I suppose success is not always linear. It's not always manifests itself in silverware. We're going in the right direction. We've made huge progress on and off the pitch, and the football club is in a great position at this moment in time.
Yeah, I think the narrative almost every off-season, particularly when it comes to Bohemians, but in general in the League of Ireland, is around player retention, players going overseas, switching clubs. How do you feel about the off-season? Obviously, there's been some big names that have gone out the door, but a lot of names have come in the door as well, and this squad is looking strong ahead of the new season.
Yeah, well, listen, the nature of one-year contracts, which we've tried to get away from over the last number of years, because, like I said, we've been in a position to do that. So, for the first 3 or 4 years, whilst I was at the club, there was we could only sign players on short-term contracts. That's the reality. So, I know there's certain narratives around Bohemians losing their best players every year. I would challenge that to a certain degree. Obviously, we've lost players this season. And 2 of them being our captain and vice captain, Keith Buckley, Rob Cornwall, who were outstanding servants for the club, brilliant fellas to work with, and done everything and helped me as a manager over their time at the club. But they've left for different reasons. So they've left for lifestyle choices, both going to different horizons. Keith is going to Australia with his girlfriend. He's going to play football in Australia, experience a different culture, a different way of life. Rob, quite similar, is going to the States. He's a guy that has always had that ambition to travel, so he'll go and play football in the States. So other players like Ross Tierney and Georgie Kelly, who were outstanding for us last year, really, really good. They've gone on to, in Georgie's case, League One club in Rotherham, and in Rossi's case, an SPL club in Motherwell. And Rossi's made an impact already with those guys there. So, you lose players. We've tried to secure players on longer term contracts. We were in better shape last year going into the cup final, for example. I think we had 12, 13 players under contract for 2022, which was unheard of in previous years. So to have that amount of players under contract. So there's no doubt, it's difficult when you bring players through to the first team to lose them to competitors, to rivals, and that can be disappointing and challenging. But it's an opportunity, like you said, to bring new faces in, recruitment in the off-season, I believe. I suppose I believe in the players that we brought in. I believe in, I suppose, what they're going to produce on the football pitch, but time will tell. The proof will be in the pudding. We've got some good players in, and we've lost some good players. So a lot of clubs are in the same situation. I think one of the disappointing aspects of last season was our start to the campaign. Every club is looking for a good start to get out of the blocks fast, and that's something that we'll be trying to do, because I mentioned about the second phase of games last year. I mentioned about the European Cup run. I mentioned about the FAI Cup run. They were our best moments last year. The consistency in the league was our Achilles heel, and there are many different reasons and factors for that. Some of it was possibly our youth, our inexperience, the depth of squad, a couple of key injuries in key positions. And also it was the turnover in staff, the year before, because we had to bring in a lot of new faces, something similar to what we've had to do this year. But we didn't get a good start last year. The first phase of games was very disappointing last year. And really, from then on, we were playing catch-up. So I think it's important this year that we make as good a start as we possibly can. That's going to be difficult when you look at the start that we have. We got 4 really tough opening games. We've got Sligo away, who finished third last year. We've got Dundalk, who obviously finished slightly below us in the table last season, but we know what Dundalk are. A rebuild under Stevie O'Donnell there this year. They're going to be a big challenge for most teams. We got St. Pat's, who obviously finished second and beat us in the cup final last year. So, and then Finn Harps away. They're our first 4 games. So it's like I said, we want to make a fast start, a strong start to the season, like all other clubs. And the quicker we gel as a group, as a squad, as a team, obviously the better we hoped the performances will be.
I want to talk about a little bit of player retention still, because I think it's easy for most fans to concentrate on who we've lost, and like you've mentioned, Bucko and Rob, Ross, Georgie, etc. But like, we've managed to keep a hold of some of our very key performers last year in the likes of Ali Coote and Liam Burt, who were obviously both new signings who were outstanding. Kieran Kelly was a stalwart in defence all year. So while it's easy to get caught up in who we've lost, it's also equally as important to focus on who we've held on to as well.
Absolutely, there's no doubt about that. Like I said, having 12, 13 players under contract last game of the season was unheard of for us as a club in previous years. And to have Ali Coote on a long-term contract, Liam Burt on a long-term contract, Kieran Kelly, James Talbot, players that you mentioned, it's important to us that we keep our most talented players here. Obviously, in Georgie Kelly's case and Ross Tierney's case, the attraction of playing leagues, playing football in different leagues in different countries, is very, very real for those guys who have ambitions to play football at the highest level that their ability can obtain. So, it is important that that we retain a lot of key individuals from last year. Players like you said, Rory Feely, I'd add into that mix. We've kept Dawson Devoy, which obviously very important for us as a club as we look into this new campaign. So it's not all doom and gloom. If you believe some of the narrative that goes out there around players, and Bohs consistently losing their best performers. There's no doubt that we've lost some players that we would have liked to have kept this year. There's no doubt about that. But it's the same for most clubs. It really is. So 99.9% of football clubs in the world are selling football clubs. Players move on. 1-year contracts, 2-year contracts. Short-term deals. Players have the obligation to themselves to try and further their careers in whatever way they see fit. So. Listen, it is what it is to a certain extent. It is something that we're trying to safeguard against in future seasons. So, and we are looking to the long term. The club have supported me in terms of budget, to provide longer term contracts to players and to get players on that footing that we have, and we can build a foundation, going forward, that we're not just reinventing the wheel season on season, starting afresh with a new squad. And I think that's important for us if we're going to try and to continue to make progress, because, it's difficult. It's difficult. The reality of football is money wins titles, Colm. That's the reality, So, the best clubs in the country, the best clubs in the UK, world football, they're the ones that are, most resourced and, are heavily invested, and they've got the most money. And that's the reality of football. But, we can be smart in terms of recruitment. We can be smart in terms of how we operate as a football club. And I think we've done that. We've punched above our weight, and we've got ourselves, and we've earned a right to be in this position where people can criticise us for not finishing in the European position last year, because that is our expectation as a football club. We want to try and grow sustainably year on year by having big important games in Dalymount Park, by playing in the Aviva Stadium in cup finals or in European competition, by qualifying for Europe. And only then, if we can do that, on a regular basis, that we can try and grow the club, even further than what we've done so far.
You mentioned his name, and I wanted to kind of give him his own focus, Dawson Devoy. There's been a lot of speculation as to why we've held on to him. Of course, he was Young Player of the Year. He was in the Team of the Year last year, one of the linchpins of our successful periods in last year. And I just wanted to ask you about how important it was for the club to hang on to him, and also for Dawson's own development, that he plays another season with Bohemians.
Well, I suppose it's widely recognised again that Dawson is one of the outstanding talents in Irish football. He's an under-21 international. He's played in our first team for two years now. He had essentially his breakthrough season last year, really, when you consider 2020 18 league games. Dawson, played a percentage of those games, but really last year was his first season. And And sometimes we forget that, that Dawson, whilst he's an exceptional talent, he's young and he needs time to develop and to progress. And I suppose we're delighted to continue to work with Dawson for the period that he'll be at the club, and hopefully we can continue to try and see the best from him. He was Young Player of the Year last year. He got in Team of the Year last year. Some of his performances on the football pitch were very, very mature. We want to play a brand of football that will, I suppose, Dawson is central to that. And ultimately, the decision was Dawson's to stay at the football club, to stay at Bohemians. He feels that being with us for the next period, like I said, if that's till the summer, to the end of the season, or wherever the case may be, that he's playing football, he's playing consistently on a regular basis at a good standard with a good learning. He's getting good coaching. He's getting good, men's football experience. And I suppose I was a little bit disappointed with some of the narrative that was circulating around Dawson. Dawson stayed at Bohs because he wanted to stay at Bohs. He wanted to continue to develop as a player. And I admire that in one sense, insofar as that when there was interest from another club, that Dawson didn't race out the door, that he wanted to assess his options, the situation that he currently finds himself in. And the bigger picture stuff for him in the short term was that he felt that Bohemians was the right club for him to continue to play his football. So I've no doubt that if Dawson continues on the graph that he's shown previously, that the next 6 months will I suppose attract other interest from other football clubs in other countries, and Dawson will have a selection of clubs to potentially choose from when the time that he is right, that he feels is right for him to make that move, make that step. What we want for Dawson, and like all the other players previously that we brought through from our academy that have come into the first team at the football club, all we want for them is to play at the highest level that they possibly can. And we try to help them to get to that point where their ambitions or their profile as players, their ability as players takes them to another phase of their careers. So one other thing on Dawson in relation to again some of the spin or narrative stories that have been going out around him, I think it's unfair to label Dawson as a home board as such, that he wanted to stay at home, that it suited him to be at home. That's not the case. Dawson's ambitious. Dawson wants a football career, wants to play at a really, really good level. And when the time is right, with the right opportunity at the right club, I'm sure Dawson will make that switch. At this moment in time, he feels he's at the right football club for him in terms of his development, in terms of where he is at this moment in time. And, I don't want anybody for 1 second to think that Dawson isn't ambitious, because he is. And I think his performances on the football pitch will display that every time he pulls on the jersey for us.
A key word that you mentioned there is development and player development, and of course on the pitch is very important, but it is as equally important off the pitch, and that is something that Bohemians have tried to do in helping their players with particularly the precarious nature of a footballing career.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're delighted, again, if you talk about how we've built sustainably as a football club, we've been able to appoint a full-time academy manager in Craig Sexton to undertake and oversee the development of those young players in our academy system. Prior to Craig coming on board, and Craig is going to be a great addition to the football club. I've no doubt about that. We've already seen some of the work that he's done. He was with us as a coach previously before joining Shelbourne, coming back to the club as under-19s coach. It was a natural step for Craig to make the step up in terms of academy manager. And that's brilliant. That helps me as first team manager to oversee the natural transition and the development of some of our younger players. A lot of clubs have done this well in Ireland. We're still at the advent of it. We're still at the outset of academy football and Irish football. There's lots of path and growth still to go. We've been able to bring a lot of young players into our first team. Some of them are still at the football club playing in the first team. Some are bubbling under in terms of our academy, and it's really important for us as a club. It's important to me as manager, to have that exuberance of youth, that natural enthusiasm, the energy that they bring to a team, that young players bring to a team, to have the high quality players like Jamie Mullins, who's an outstanding technician at your available to you, and like so Ross Tierney last year scoring the goals that he did, the impact that he made on the team from the time that he came into the team, not just last year. Like Rossi had a massive impact in us qualifying for Europe when we finished third back in 2019. Rossi came into the team at a point where we were vulnerable. We were under a little bit of pressure in terms of getting results to try and get over the line to make that European position. And Rossi, his performance has belied his age at that particular point. But I suppose the point I'm making is that Rossi came through our academy. He was in and around the first team. The development of our players is very, very important to us as a football club. So the facilities that we've got with DCU, have enabled us to progress again, I feel. Our under-19s team train beside the first team, our under-17s team train beside the first team. So we have that collaboration amongst the players, the coaches, the staff, everybody involved, in that environment where I suppose really it's a facilitative environment where we're challenging people, we're supporting people, but in equal measure. And I think that's really important for us as a football club as we try and progress and try and, bridge the gap between ourselves and other clubs, because as a members run club, obviously we have a different model to other clubs with private investment, and we've got to be smart in how we operate and how we work. And I think, Bohemians, there's no doubt, is an attractive option for players. And, I've said this, my ambition for this football club is to have the best players available to us, to be challenging for silverware, to be competing in European competition every year. We've had some setbacks last year, disappointed not to get a European position. There's no doubt about that. Let's not run away from that. We're 2 points off. We had some high moments, disappointed to lose a cup final. But ultimately, and it comes back to this, we're going in the right direction. We're absolutely going in the right direction. If people come down to the club, see the offices, see the people that are working in the offices here, seeing the quality of people that we have involved in the club at board level on a day-to-day basis, it's fantastic.
And then I suppose finally one last thing to do is to look ahead, and the new season is only a short time away. And with everything that we've talked about considered in terms of players going out, players coming in, the players that we've hung on to, what are your own ambitions for the upcoming 2022 season?
Primarily, Colm, my ambition or objective for the season is to be as consistent as we possibly can. And I know that might sound a little bit fluffy, but the reality is if we can turn up, perform on a consistent basis, week in, week out, we've got slightly less games to play this year. Last year, we played something like, I think we played 36 league games, we played 5 games in the Cup, and we had 6 games in Europe. That had an impact on the squad, okay? So playing games Friday, Monday, having a backlog of games because of European competition, because of success, that's where we want to be. We want to have those problems, but we want to be consistent. I think if we can turn up every Friday, every Monday when we're asked to, perform at a level that I believe we're capable of. We've got some exciting players, like you said. People want to come to Dalymount Park to watch their team, to get excited. They want to see goals. They want to see goal-mouth action. I want that for the team this year. I believe we've got an exciting brand. We play an exciting brand of football. We have a team capable of winning games, and ultimately it's down to us as a management team to get the most from the players that we have at our disposal, and to make sure that we back it up every week, that we perform at a consistent level. Because had we done so in certain games last year, we would have qualified for European competition without a huge amount of I suppose, listen, we would have qualified for Europe easily, you know, in my opinion, last year, had we have been a little bit more consistent. And I suppose that's our objective this year. We want to play a brand of football that gets our fans excited, gets people coming into the stadium. We're playing in front of sellout crowds every week, which is fantastic. There seems to be a buzz around the league in general. If you look at other clubs, you know, there's going to be lots of Dublin derbies this year, so there's going to be lots of excitement in that sense. You know, there's a buzz around the league. There seems to be a lot of interest being generated around the league this year, which is fantastic. Competition is going to be really, really high. When you look at the investment in other squads at other clubs, you know, it's going to be really difficult for us. But you know, we've got some good players. We've got a good team. We've got an experienced backroom team. You know, we want to make sure that our team is ready every time it takes the pitch this year. And it starts on Saturday down in Sligo. So I'm told that we've sold out our allocation of away tickets, and you know, we might even find some both supporters in with the home supporters somewhere on Saturday. So it starts on Saturday, really. You know, and going to Sligo is going to be very difficult. The pitch is, I believe, not in great condition. Sligo, at the best of times, are tough opponents. And like I said, they finished third last year, so they'll want to start their season off well. So that's the challenge, you know, to try and make us a team that can turn up and perform every week to a high level on a consistent basis. So that's the primary objective for the year.
I suppose all there's left to say is best of luck for the season, Keith, and I look forward to catching up along the way.
Thanks.